Hey everyone, it's been a minute since I filmed a non-college related video and I'm back home for a little bit, so I thought this was the perfect opportunity to kind of go through my vinyl collection, show you what I got. It's going to be a little more informal of a video. I'm just going to go through my collection, show you what I got, and talk about any memories or anything important associated with each of the records. I've been collecting vinyls now for well over 6 years. I started back in 2019, I think in March. That's when I got my record player, my first record. That's enough of me talking. Let's get into the vinyls. I have a lot. I've split them into 4 different categories, and these are kind of arbitrary. This is my first bunch of vinyls, and these are what I call, I guess, newer or contemporary vinyls. So they're albums released within the past 10 or so years. And this is kind of where it gets arbitrary because there's some vinyl that I have in my older artists section that are newer than some of what's in here. This is just kind of how I catalog it in my head, and it makes sense to me. I know at face value it probably doesn't. This is where the bulk of my collection is. I listen to a lot of more recent artists that put out a lot of vinyl, so that's where the majority of this is. And these are typically ones that I bought new or I got as gifts for my family for Christmas or something like that. And then these are my older vinyls, I guess. All of these vinyl, for the most part, are hand-me-downs from family from their own collections. My aunt gave me a lot of hers because her record player broke and she didn't buy a new one. Anyway, the last of the 12-inch collection is soundtracks. So these are soundtracks and scores for movies. The last grouping that I have is 7-inch singles. So the majority of these are hand-me-downs from my dad. This is actually my dad's collection, and I'm gonna film a video on another day going through this with him, so I'm not gonna touch these tonight, but it'll be in the same video. And these are mostly like 80s, 90s stuff back when he collected vinyl. So starting with the newer vinyls, the first one I have is Bulliono by Omar Apollo, and this is a funny one to start on because this is not really an album that I listen to at all. You'll see throughout this collection there are a few vinyl in here that I don't really listen to. There are a few singles on here that I like. There's one featuring Uchis. This is the back. Comes with a poster. It's pretty. But anyways, I go through these. I'm going to show you what's inside, what the vinyl looks like if it's not a standard black vinyl. This vinyl is really pretty. It's kind of a translucent pink or purple vinyl, depending on how you look at it. But yeah, I can't say I've listened to this one all that much. Next, we have Beatopia by Biba Doobie. Biba Doobie is one of my most listened to artists. I started listening to her back in 2018 when she didn't have much but any singles out. I think maybe she had her first EP out. This is the cover. This is the gatefold when it's open. And then it comes with this poster, which is just kind of the cover but extended. The album itself is a neon green, which is really cool. Boy Genius, the record. This was a really big album for me back in 2023, in the spring of 2023 when it first came out. I saw Boy Genius live at the Reset concert series with Dijon, Bartiz, Strange, and Clairo. Great show. They were really great performers. This is the open gatefold. This vinyl is a really pretty blue with a little bit of white. It's nice. This has been a really good streak of colored vinyls. I don't think this will continue for much longer. And kind of just off that, Punisher by Phoebe Bridgers. This is one of my favorite albums of all time. I'm probably gonna say that a lot, obviously, because it's my vinyl collection, but this would probably be top 10 for me, I think. I love this record. I think it's beautiful. This is the interior gatefold. It actually comes with this really cool booklet, I guess, and there's a bunch of different illustrations with all the lyrics. So this album was really big for me, probably around like my junior year of high school. I don't listen to it as much as a whole anymore just because it's kind of really depressing. Cigarettes After Sex, self-titled album. I really like Cigarettes After Sex. I do think though that a lot of their music can sound pretty similar, so I don't really need one of their vinyls. And now we're gonna get into my favorite artist of all time, Clairo. So I have a lot of different vinyl for her. First up is Charm. This is her most recent album. I really like this album. This is the gatefold. Very nice sleeve. I really like the aesthetic of this album. And I saw this live in concert and it was great. And it's this really pretty lavender color that I like. Then I have her first EP that she put out back in 2018. So that's right around the time I started listening to her. I think she put this out in May and I started listening to her in like probably November of that year. So this was pretty much all that was out by the time I started listening to her. And this is a very standard vinyl. Then we have Immunity, and this is tied for my favorite album of all time. I love this album. It was such a formative album for me. It was dropped summer of 2019, so it was kind of the soundtrack of all of my high school experience. A lot of the stuff that I've shown you so far has been kind of very indie pop heavy, and that was a lot of what I listened to probably from like 2018 through like 2022, and then it kind of expanded more. I still listen to a lot of it, but a lot of the albums that I've shown you so far I don't listen to as much as I once did. This one is timeless. This is going to be an album that I listen to forever. It will always be probably my top 5 of the year on Spotify Wrapped. This is The Gatefold. We have her sophomore album, Sling. We actually have it twice. I bought this album right when it came out in the summer of 2021. I love this record. I think it's fantastic. My friend Shep, who has the same birthday as me, actually got me this vinyl, which I haven't opened, just because it was such a nice gift and I don't want to ruin it when I already have one that I use a lot. This is the interior. This is the back. But yeah, I have a lot of Clairo. And if you think this is a lot of vinyl, I have even more Clairo shirts. People actually make fun of me a little bit for how many Clairo shirts I have. I probably have 7 or 8 Clairo shirts. This is Lucy Dacus's Historian. Again, just like the first album that I showed you, this is another one that I don't listen to a ton. Fuzzy Brain by Dayglow. This was an album I think I got into from its singles back in either 2018 or 2019. This is such a fun album. It's kind of like peak 2019 indie pop sort of deal. This is the inside. The aesthetic's really funny. I was eating this stuff up. This vinyl is really fun. Kind of like this splatter on a white vinyl. Mac DeMarco, Salad Days. The record is a pale yellow, translucent. Great album. I don't have a ton to say about this one, but his next album, This Old Dog. This is my favorite Mac DeMarco album. I think this album is fantastic. I listened to this album so many times. Mac DeMarco for a while was actually my top artist. He had even superseded Clairo. This is the inside. All of This Will End by Indigo D'Souza. Front, back, gatefold. This vinyl is a really pretty orange and green. It's called Forest Fire. And it's funny, I had really liked Indigo D'Souza before this album. My friend Tilly put me onto her. I got really into her, and then she announced that she was putting this vinyl out. I ordered it, and it actually delivered before it was released on streaming, so that was a really cool experience. I got to listen to the vinyl a few days early. This is Portamento by The Drums, and The Drums was actually my favorite concert that I've ever been to. It was a fantastic show. It was at the Sinclair in Cambridge, a really small venue, very intimate show. It was fantastic, and then there was kind of a meet and greet afterward, and I got to meet the lead singer, Johnny Pierce. He was just a sweetheart. He was so nice, so genuine and kind. This is another album that I got into back in 2019. I love this record. I think it's really fun. And this is another one of my first vinyls I think that I ever got. It's probably in my first 5, so it's another one of my most played. And then next we have Girl in Red. So this is another one of my early indie pop artists. I, again, don't really listen to her as much. For a while, she was my top artist, I think in 2019 and maybe even 2020. This vinyl is my favorite work of hers. It's a collection of a lot of her singles, which were my favorite. She put this out maybe a year or 2 after all the individual singles came out. And it's a really pretty red vinyl. This is my next record of hers that I have. It's inside. And honestly, this is kind of what caused me to not listen to her as much. I think this album's fun. There's some songs on here that I like. Next is My Light, My Destroyer by Cassandra Jenkins. This was one of my favorite albums of 2024. I actually had not really listened to her on my own, but I started doing concert photography at BU. Cassandra Jenkins was one of the names on the list, so I listened to Start Music and I was like, this is good. And then I went and saw her, and that was actually the first concert I ever shot, and it was a really cool concert. Over time I've come to really, really like this album. So you got a big Chameleon Eye, Galaxy, which are both kind of themes within the album, and then you have another kind of lavender clear vinyl that's really pretty. And this and Charm were actually released on the same day, and both of them, at least the versions that I have, are lavender vinyl, so that's pretty cool. Gemini Rights by Steve Lacy. This is another album that I bought because I was really into the singles summer 2022, and a lot of songs off this were some of the only songs that I listened to on repeat in the summer of 2022 when I was actually at BU doing a summer program. This and Faye Webster. And then this is one of my favorite vinyls. I think it's really cool. It is the Marias. It's a 10-inch single. It is Bop It Up and Care For You, which are two fantastic songs from the Marias. The Marias are another artist or band that I love. I got into them before they had put out either of their albums. I think at that time they had just put out both volumes of Super Clean. So they had a good amount of stuff out and a decent following, but now they're blowing up like crazy, which is awesome. I'm so happy to see the success for them. I love Cinema and I love Submarine. I don't have either of those on vinyl, but those are ones that I definitely want. I also saw them in concert and they were fantastic. But anyway, this is just 10-inch vinyl. It's really cute. Men I Trust Untourable album. This is a fantastic album. I like all the stuff Men I Trust puts out. They put 2 albums out this year and I really like both of them. This probably supersedes both of them in my opinion, but they're all great. And then we have Solange, When I Get Home. This album is fantastic. I think Solange is incredible. And this vinyl is gorgeous. It's a clear vinyl. The camera isn't really doing it justice. It looks more opaque than it actually is, but I think this vinyl is so pretty. The album is so good. It's such an experience to listen to. I think she's great and I need to get her other stuff, and I hope she puts out more stuff soon. Another one of my most played albums is Igor by Tyler, the Creator. I like a lot of Tyler's stuff, but this album by far is my favorite, and it's also the one that introduced me to him back in 2019 when it came out. And I saw Tyler live on the Call Me If You Get Lost tour with the next artist, Uchis, which was a great show. And then my first album of Cali's that I have is Isolation, and this is tied with Immunity for my favorite album of all time. This is a no-skip album. It's fantastic. I love every song on it, and I really like all of her other albums. I think she's one of the most consistent artists in terms of quality, and I have a few other of her albums, but this one by far is my favorite. And the aesthetic's great too. I think this album, even though it's pretty popular, is still so underrated. It's a beautiful blue vinyl that I actually need to clean because I have used it so much it's getting a little dusty. Next Kali Uchis album that I have is Red Moon and Venus. This is another good one, and it's just nice red vinyl as well. Kali always has great visuals and great aesthetics going on. There's a lot of thought into all of her stuff, which I really appreciate. The last Kali Uchis vinyl that I have is Sin Miedo, another great album. This was fun. Nothing Happens, and this was actually the first record that I ever bought back when I got my record player. Very simple record, it's great, but I love it. I'm so happy that this was the first one that I bought. I think it was great. And again, another album that was kind of indicative of the indie pop of the time. This is just a 12-inch single of one of their songs, Okay, and it's this nice red as well. And there's nothing on the back. I remember buying this and then getting it in the mail and being like, wait, why did I spend that much money on one song on vinyl? And then we have their EP, Remote. It's this pink color. This album's really funky, definitely deviates from their previous sound, and sometimes I love it and sometimes not so much. Another one of their EPs, Spring, this was their first EP, no skips on here, and this is an aptly titled EP. I listen to this EP every spring. It kind of perfectly captures the vibe of the season, and it's this really cool pink and green vinyl. Tell Me That It's Over. This one is nowhere near as popular as Nothing Happens, but I think this one is so underrated. This is such a fun, summery album. I go back and forth between which album I like more. I usually end up going with Nothing Happens just because of the significance of it to me personally, but this album is so good. It's this yellow vinyl. And the last vinyl in this section is not actually with me, it's back at school. Heavy Metal by Cameron Winter, one of my favorites of 2024, even though it kind of came out at the latter end of the year, so I didn't really start listening to it until this year. So what's kind of funny about that is one of my friends and brothers in my frat is actually the brother, like the biological brother, not frat brother, of Cameron Winter, which is so cool. And I'm totally like nerding, geeking out, being like, dude, your brother's music is insane. And now that album's really getting its flowers, which is super cool. So that concludes the kind of contemporary new section of my collection, and now we can move on to some of the older stuff. So as I kind of alluded to earlier, a lot of these albums come from different places. A lot of them are hand-me-downs and some of them I bought as well. The first album that we have is Abbey Road by the Beatles. My grandmother got this for me when I first started getting into vinyl. And then we have Hounds of Love by Kate Bush. But I love a lot of songs off this, not just Running Up That Hill. I honestly think I like Hounds of Love, the song, even more. That song is ethereal, it's insane. And then we have Heaven or Las Vegas by the Cocteau Twins. This is a great album. You never know what they're saying on any of their songs on it, and that's what makes it so good. This is definitely from my aunt's collection, Sam Cooke. This is a dual vinyl album. That's the gatefold, so there's 2 vinyls in here, and they're both a really pretty ruby red. Next we have the Cranberries, Dreams in the collection. Gotta represent my Irish heritage, and Dreams is actually my favorite song of all time. Fleetwood Mac, Rumors. I think my parents got this for me. They love Fleetwood Mac. I also love Fleetwood Mac, but generational run on this album in terms of just insane songs that are still so good and relevant today. Next up is a collection of songs. This is Jackie Gleason's Today's Romantic Hits for Lovers Only. This is a very old album. This is actually handed down from my grandparents, and the reason I have this one and hold it so dearly is because there's a handwritten message on the back of it from my grandmother to my grandfather, and I think that's just the cutest thing in the world. This is Engelbert Humperdinck. I can pronounce his name typically, when I'm recording myself. I don't listen to him a ton. I got this for I think $1 or $2 up in Utica, New York. The reason I got this is because my grandmother loves Engelbert Humperdinck. When my grandfather passed away a couple of years ago, we were just trying to think of anything we could do to cheer my grandmother up, and we remembered that she loved Engelbert Humperdinck, and he had actually come to Boston and did a show at his old age of 80 or whatever it was. And so my parents took my grandmother and they had a fantastic time. Even though I don't listen to him, I just wanted this album because that was such a special thing for me, even though I wasn't super involved with it. It was a really cool sort of family bonding type thing. His music means a lot to me just because it provided solace to my grandmother in that hard time. Michael Jackson, Thriller. This is another one from my aunt. And once again, just an album that speaks for itself. My grandfather showed me the Thriller video when I was 6, and I think that's the most scared I've ever been in my life. And then we have Journey Greatest Hits. I think my mom got this for me. And this is another dual vinyl album. And next up we have Alicia Keys, The Element of Freedom. I know it's not as popular as some of her others. I grew up on this album. This is one of the albums that my parents always had playing when I was a little kid, so it's so nostalgic for me. And it's not a gatefold vinyl, but it does have 2 records in it. So this is the first one, and it's another kind of pinkish purple. This is the other one, same color. And then Mazzy Star, Seasons of Your Day. This is another vinyl I got at Rough Trade in New York City, but it was actually a different time. It was a few years before the most recent time. Controversially, I will go out there and say that this is my favorite Mazzy Star album. And I have 2 Elvis records. This one is really old. I don't even want to open it. It's like falling out of the bottom. It's Golden Records, and this one's for my aunt. Elvis is big in my family. My grandmother loves him. My sister loves him. And then it kind of comes in this clear sleeve, which is pretty cool. And then we got Queen, Greatest Hits. Just like Thriller, this is another one that speaks for itself. The Ultimate, Frank Sinatra. This is such easy listening. I got some Taylor Swift. I loved Taylor Swift when I was growing up. She was my favorite artist, I think, when I was a kid. And Fearless was the album that I was really into. We have a bunch of home videos of me when I was really young, running around singing to it. And some of my earliest memories are the dances that I do to songs in this album. So I also have Speak Now. I didn't see Speak Now on tour, but the first concert I ever went to, first big artist that I ever went to was Taylor Swift. The last Taylor album that I have is her self-titled debut. This one is up there with Fearless for me. I don't really listen to as much of her new stuff, especially like her new stuff like Tortured Poets, Department of Midnights, but her first 3 albums are great. And then I have this kind of box set of 4 really old vinyls. I'm not gonna go through them all, just they're old. It's a collection of a bunch of different rock and roll hits, and my grandparents actually bought this for me, and we got it at a thrift store on the Cape for like probably $1 or $2. Back to Black by Amy Winehouse. I love Amy Winehouse. She is a fantastic vocalist. So that wraps up the older section of my 12-inch vinyls. And then my last section of 12-inch albums is soundtracks. First one is the Booksmart soundtrack. And this soundtrack is fantastic. It's a collection of a bunch of random songs. The album is this fun purple and blue splattered album. There's a great mix of genres on here. It led me to discover a lot of artists that I really like. This album introduced me to Cautious Clay, Kings Go Forth, and Perfume Genius. Booksmart is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's in my top 4. Then we have Charlie Brown Christmas by the Vince Guaraldi Trio. And the album is a fun green color for Christmas. Curious George soundtrack. This is another childhood favorite of mine. I love Curious George. Here I am, 20 years old, home from college, and talking about how much I love Curious George, but I love the books, I love the movie, I love the soundtrack. There used to be a store in Cambridge that I loved. The Greatest Showman soundtrack, This one went platinum in my household. Not necessarily on my end, but my sister loved the movie, loved the soundtrack, and my dad would always play the soundtrack and other Disney musical soundtracks. Home Alone, another one of my favorite albums. Such a nostalgic soundtrack. It always gets me in the mood for the holiday, and it's this really fun, translucent splatter vinyl. There's a big debate in my household over whether Home Alone or Elf is the better Christmas movie, and I give it to Home Alone. La La Land, I have the soundtrack and the score. La La Land is my favorite movie of all time. It's the movie that got me into movies. This is another one that I've played so many times that it's kind of fallen apart on me. And then this soundtrack is for the, I believe, 2021 documentary, Some Kind of Heaven. This soundtrack is incredible, and it has like no streams on Spotify. I think the biggest song off of it has probably like 20 or 30,000 streams. This, I think, is one of the hidden gems in my collection. I think people should really check out this soundtrack if they get the chance. The Stranger Things soundtrack. I loved Stranger Things when I was a teenager. I watched it about a year after it came out. I was in 6th grade and I was in shock, and that was when my parents were pretty strict about what I could watch, so I had to kind of sneak around and watch it with my friends on their phones on the way to the track meets that we would have. You got The Police, Duran Duran, Joy Division, are you kidding me? Psychedelic Furs, New Order. Like, there are probably 5 or 10 songs on here that I would buy the albums of. Like New Order and Joy Division specifically, especially New Order, I want to buy everything they put out. The Turning soundtrack, this is kind of a random pick because I have not seen this movie. I got this vinyl because Girl in Red put out a song for it called Kate's Not Here, which I think is actually a really good song. But there are a lot of great songs on here that this kind of put me onto. Mitski's on here and Uchis is on here. The vinyl is this really pretty red vinyl with some black splatter on it. This is another movie that I have not watched, which is insane considering that horror is my favorite genre. And I will definitely get around to this, but my mom got this for me. A beautiful vinyl. Clear vinyl with some black and white splatter. The last one in the section is the X-Files soundtrack. Whitish, translucent vinyl. I love the X-Files. I had a huge crush on Gillian Anderson. My parents and I watched this show together. And that is the end of all of the soundtrack vinyl that I have. Okay, it's a few days later. I just got my wisdom teeth out, so I'm swollen and bruised. I move back into school tomorrow and I don't bring my records with me, so I'm gonna just speed run them here. If people are interested and kind of want to see a more in-depth look at the singles, let me know and I can do that. But for right now, I'm just gonna kind of speed through them and just show you each artist. Philip Bailey, Easy Lover, Pat Benatar, and one of the picture disc. Anita Bryant, Irene Cara, Chicago, The Barge, Def Leppard, Duran Duran, Genesis, Go-Go's, Dan Hartman, Huey Lewis and the News, Billy Joel, Shaka Khan, Kool and the Gang, Paul McCartney, Christine McVie, New Edition, Billy Ocean, Prince, and this is another picture disc, Shalimar, Rick Springfield, and Denise Williams from the Footloose soundtrack. Those are all of the 7-inch 45s that I have. Pretty solid collection. I'm really grateful that my dad gave this to me. And some artists in there that I really like. That's enough of my swollen ugly mug. I'm so proud of this collection. I think it really represents a lot of my music taste, although again, a little bit more of what I got into a few years ago, not as much now. But there's a lot of vinyl that I still really, really want. One of my favorite albums of all time that I just have not bought, and I've seen in so many record stores, and I've like debated like, oh, do I buy this or do I not buy this? But it's a more expensive album, is the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. More Solange stuff, Velvet Rope by Janet Jackson, anything by New Order, the Lady Bird soundtrack I really want. I would love some Todd Rundgren, Nick Drake. The list goes on and on. I don't need to read you everything that I have on my Spotify. I know this is kind of a deviation from my regular content, but I don't know, I'm trying to branch out a little bit from all of the college stuff. I don't know, I kind of want to explore a bunch of different interests that I have, and one of those is vinyl. If you made it this far through this video of me literally just talking and holding up vinyl, thank you for watching. And as always, if you have any questions or want to see anything else, please let me know. I'm happy to do that. Engelbert Humperdinck. Fuck.